There are some questions from the audience that we actually have collected them in advance. So I'm gonna kick it over to my guy with the cool hair, who's gonna read some questions from you guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you. First question, social media, love it, hate it, or just complicated?
It's complicated. I mean, I think like everyone, you don't have to have 28 million followers, or you can have 28 followers and understand what it's like to post a selfie and kind of be like, oh, not as many people liked it as I thought. I thought I looked cute, like, and looking at it and reassessing it. So, you know, my early relationship with Instagram was that it was a place where I could have control. As a model, you know, models in the 90s, they didn't get to control what images were being put out of them into the world. So for me, it was like, oh, this is a way I can connect directly to people, blah, blah, blah. But obviously, it's complicated.
How would you like men to perceive the book?
That's a good question.
It's a great question.
Whoever asked that question, that was good.
I mean, I wrote the book thinking actually of men in my life, and kind of having a desire for them to understand what my experience has been. So I was really happy when the essay in the cut, so many men read it and, you know, started thinking about what, you know, even just the feeling of like being a model and being the object of desire. And, you know, I think men feel a lot of times like a young woman has all the power because she's the desired. But that's just not totally true. So I think just hoping that men will, you know, find empathy and even maybe potentially relate and understand what it means to be a woman kind of grappling with identity and sexuality and beauty and power.
Next question, my inference here may also involve the question of how men might feel about the book, but the question is, my body doesn't suggest a plan of action on how you want modeling or Hollywood or the world to change. What do you hope people in places of influence take from the book?
Yeah, you know, I don't have an answer. I don't have a solution to ending patriarchy, essentially. I wish I did. I think that a lot of the issues I'm interested in, you know, kind of bringing to light are ones that aren't quick policy changes. They need systematic cultural shifts in the way we think, which is why I wrote this book, to start those conversations. That to me is part of the plan of action. That being said, I think that, you know, I've already seen some interesting conversations around agencies, modeling agencies. I think that, you know, in the book, there are a lot of instances where I was not protected, and I know that that continues to be true. The agencies essentially work for the models. They make a commission if the models work, but they end up, that isn't how the dynamic happens, and what instead happens is the agencies really kind of worry about the clients and teach the models that they're replaceable, that, you know, if they're not agreeable, there'll be somebody else who's more agreeable, and that culture certainly is something that I think could change more easily than some of the larger things I'm talking about, like, you know, teaching girls to assert, you know, boundaries, or how to say no. Those are things that, you know, we have to talk about, but I'm not entirely sure how I even learned some of those things so early. So, you know, I think just being conscious of a lot of these issues is kind of the first step.
So in writing the book, your activism is now public. What is next for you in that realm?
I don't know. Good question. It's weird, I'm like answering to all of you. I'm like, whose question was this? I mean, I think that creating things, it's one thing I learned from the book, is that I had always wanted to be somebody who made things, and I, you know, kind of got sidetracked into what I thought was like the way that I was gonna make money and guarantee my future, and that became my career and my life. And now having made something, it's made me realize that I want to do more of that no matter what. So, you know, I'm really interested in continuing the conversations and the ideas that I'm having, that I'm wrestling with in this book, you know, in other mediums, whether that be film, documentaries, anything. So I'm not totally sure yet. I kind of want to see where the book takes me.
Any regrets about anything you put in the book, and also any regrets about anything you wished you had put in the book?
No regrets. No regrets. Yeah, I mean, I worked very hard. The book is very intentional. So there were things that I didn't put in and didn't include in the book to protect myself, essentially, protect people I love. And I think that, you know, all in due time. There might be things that I wasn't ready to write about that I'll want to write about later, but this was what I wanted to kind of share with the world.
In Spanish, there is a word called currencia. It means the place where one's strength is drawn from, where one feels at home, the place where you are your most authentic self. Aside from the place you call home, where is your currencia?
I mean, it's definitely an internal place. I'm thinking about like where I go kind of mentally when I'm writing. And, you know, it's sort of like somewhere between dream space and, you know, especially when I'm remembering things and putting it on the page. But I would have to say now, as a mother, being with my son, being in close proximity to my son, and just being in our home, that's definitely, that's it.
Do you think when companies incorporate alt body types in their advertising, they are having a positive effect on society, or is it a cynical ploy?
Both. I think that, you know, it's weird. I mean, I'm sure you have so much to say about this. I would love for you to respond to that one as well. But, you know, representation in fashion, that's it. It's like, you know, you are saying these are the beautiful women, these are the bodies that we're idealizing. It's important to have that, as much as it is sort of one-dimensional. That is what fashion is in many ways. So I do think it's actually, you know, really important to have that representation. I wish that I had grown up with more of that. That being said, it does also feel somehow related to, you know, the way that like pride has become a way to sell things. It's like checking a box, and a lot of these companies don't actually change. You know, there's no diversity in their workforce and in their employees or the people making decisions at the top. So that's where it feels really empty. I feel like you should say more.
No, what she said.
Okay.
What is your perspective on fate? Do you believe fate and destiny had any attribution towards your success?
These are good questions.
Yeah, damn. We're talking about faith. Okay, fate. Well, I write about magical thinking. It's something that I've had since I was a kid. It's just this feeling of like, if I do this one thing, then this other thing will happen. And I think it's that sort of connected to the belief in fate. And I struggle with that because I think in some ways the magical thinking has not been healthy for me, because, you know, it leads to kind of like compulsive behaviors, like not being able to celebrate certain successes or wins because I think I'm going to jinx something, or, you know, like trying to find a certain necklace because it'll be bad luck if I don't have it on, or just kind of that stuff. That being said, I obviously believe in fate a little bit because I think that I can kind of control fate. And I don't know, even just when I was writing about my really early childhood and kind of looking at how I've gotten to where I am, it did feel sort of like, how could it have happened any other way or gone any other way? So I feel like the answer is that the logical part of me doesn't want to believe in fate, but my gut does, for better or worse.
What is the one important lesson we can teach our children about their own and each other's bodies?
Well, for me, you know, I think I always related to my body as a tool to have financial security, as a tool to guarantee lovability, or just as a tool rather than what it is, which is actually a part of me and the vessel that's taking me through life, at the risk of sounding terribly cheesy and crazy. That was, you know, actually one of the hardest sections of the book for me to find. The anecdote was in the last essay, which I write about birth, there's a little tiny moment of just being on a bike ride with my best friend and my husband, and I'm pregnant. I'm a little bit earlier than you, newly pregnant, and it was just a moment where I appreciated my body for like letting me have this beautiful bike ride with my friends, because it was like a little bit of hard work, and there was a moment where I kind of felt gross. I was pregnant, like first trimester, and the sun was beating down on us, and I felt self-conscious for a second, and then I looked up, and there were these people that I love so much who just wanted to enjoy the day with me, and it gave me this incredible appreciation for my body in a way that I don't always have. And I think that teaching children very young to respect their bodies and think of their bodies in that way, especially girls and women, could be hugely impactful for just the quality of life that they could have.
What do you think is the most important way women can encourage community instead of competition when interacting with each other? And do you believe men can have a role in that as well?
Oh, no, I think the men have to sit this one out. It's just up to us, ladies. God, I mean, I think it's a conscious, like, that change starts within for women, because everything we're taught is to compare ourselves to other women, to differentiate ourselves from other women by sort of saying like, I'm over here, they're over here. And it makes us feel good about ourselves, ultimately, is what I realized. And that's why we do it. And I think also women do it out of fear and the idea of scarcity. So like there can't be more than one, there can't be other women operating in the world that, you know, maybe like feel somehow similar or parallel to you. So I really believe that means like that's accountability. That's like checking yourself every second. And, you know, the tiny kind of little things that we throw away, comments, even how I feel like other women sometimes bond is by saying like, we're different than that woman. And it can be so easy to slip into that because it's really nice to connect with women even when it's at another woman's expense. But I think finding ways to avoid that, and it's something I'm not perfect at, that's where it can start on a micro level and then grow and expand. It's a tough one.
Two more questions. What did you think about the stop sign in the Blurred Lines video?
That's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, you know, that video, you'd have to ask Diane Martel, who's the director, who I think she wasn't thinking about a lot of those ideas. She wasn't thinking about consent. I mean, I had certainly not even heard the lyrics to the song. So I think for her, it was just a kind of another funny, silly prop. But the irony is not lost on me. I would say that about it.
And the final question, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
So people have been asking me this, and I actually have a hard time with it because I feel like somehow it means that there would be something I regret or that I would change. And part of the reason I wrote this book is to sort of rid myself of regret, or you know, thinking like there was so much shame connected to like, if only you had done this one thing differently, this thing wouldn't have happened, and people would like you more, people would understand you more, you would have been safe, this person wouldn't have hurt you, blah blah blah. So I feel uncomfortable with that question somewhat, because I'm like, I want to kind of give myself a break, and I think that maybe would be the advice that I would give to just any young girl. Give yourself a break. Women are so self-critical, so hard on themselves, and we blame ourselves for a lot of situations that are not entirely our fault. We can be complicit, we play a part in it, but just give yourself a break.